This video is on steroids. An easy way to tell a steroid backbone is you will see 4 fused rings, as shown in this picture here. Steroids are lipids, therefore they follow the same properties that lipids follow. They're insoluble in water and they're soluble in nonpolar solvents. They are not related structurally to the fatty acids or phospholipids that we've discussed before. The most important steroid is cholesterol. This is the precursor to many other important steroids in the cell. So cholesterol we have here, and this again is the precursor to bile salts, vitamin D, and steroid hormones. Starting with bile salts. Bile salts are stored in the gallbladder, and then they are released into the small intestine during digestion to break up the fat globules. And this is known as a process. This process is called emulsification. Emulsification. So here you have your 4-ring fused together. Folate is an example of a bile salt. Steroid hormones, there are 5 classes of these, and they are listed below here. We will go into each of them a little bit. The first one, glucocorticoids. These are produced in the adrenal cortex. So they have immunosuppressant activity, used in different allergies and asthma medications. Something called cortisol is released during stress and suppresses the inflammation and the immune system. And then something you've heard of before, prednisone. This is a synthetic glucocorticoid and an immunosuppressant. So you can see here are cortisol and prednisone. Here are your 4 fused rings for your steroid. And here's the polar part. Mineralocorticoids. These are produced by the adrenal cortex as well, and their main function here is to regulate electrolyte balance. So your different ions such as sodium, potassium, and chlorine. Aldosterone causes kidneys to increase the reabsorption of sodium ions. This is the primary mineralocorticoid. You can see a picture of this on the right. Again, you have your 4 fused rings. Drugs that inhibit the release of this aldosterone are used to treat hypertension, so high blood pressure. Sex hormones. So you have progestins, estrogens, and androgens. They are the primary sex hormones. Progestins regulate the menstrual cycle and play a role in pregnancy. Androgens and estrogens control the development of sexual characteristics in a developing fetus and secondary sexual characteristics during puberty. There's your picture of them. Okay, moving on to lipoproteins. Lipoproteins transport insoluble cholesterol and triacylglycerides through the blood. So cholesterol itself will not go through the blood. They need these lipoproteins to help with that. Here are types and properties of different lipoproteins. These are defined by their density. So that is the biggest part to all of this. The greater the lipid content, the less dense it is. I think we should write that: greater lipid content, the less dense. So these lipoproteins, they have a lipid portion and a protein portion. So you can see here, starting with the chylomicrons, they have a density of 0.95. And then as you move onward to the right, you are getting more dense. So you can see you have VLDLs, which stands for very low density lipoprotein. You have intermediate density, low density, and then your high density lipoprotein. This is known as your good cholesterol. So you have probably heard people talk about good and bad cholesterol. There's only one form of cholesterol, but these HDLs are considered your good cholesterol. More protein, less lipid. Okay, HDLs, why are they good cholesterol? They scavenge, they go back and look for excess cholesterol in the bloodstream. So anything that's excess, and then they'll take that right to the liver, which will then be converted to bile salts, and then it'll be excreted out of the body. So that's why this is good cholesterol. This kind of cleans up any cholesterol left over. So a question here: how do HDLs differ from LDLs in structure and function? So your HDLs have a greater protein lipid content, more protein, less lipid than LDLs. And then there's the function again, to get rid of that excess cholesterol. Your LDLs, they will carry your triacylglycerides and cholesterol to their cells. And then that's how you'll get your different fat globules, and you can build fat that way. Inflammation and eicosanoids. This is a lipid class that are signaling molecules that initiate inflammatory response. So really important here. They are produced from arachidonic acids, which is an omega-6, if you remember our notation there, that nutritionists use, omega-6 fatty acid, and a delta 5,8,11,14 fatty acid. So if something happens, some kind of trauma, some kind of infection, this arachidonic acid is hydrolyzed from the glycerophospholipids found in the cell membranes. And this is what will trigger something to swell on your body. So this right here, arachidonic acid cascade. After the arachidonic acid is hydrolyzed, it undergoes a sequence of reactions. This sequence of reactions is known as this cascade. So this is a sequence of reactions following hydrolyzation of arachidonic acid. So your anti-inflammatory drugs, such as you see up here, your Advil that we've all taken probably in our lives, these interfere with the reaction that produces our eicosanoids. So 3 different parts here. So prostaglandins, sensitive pain neurons, and cause the response that leads to a fever. So anytime you get a fever, Thromboxanes are short-acting vasoconstrictors, which initially decrease blood flow. When this happens, the site turns pale initially. So your blood flow decreases and your skin will turn pale. And then your leukotrienes, vasodilators that increase blood flow. So look at the difference here. Vasoconstrictors, vasodilators. Decrease blood flow, increase blood flow. And make the blood vessels more permeable. Plasma leaks into the connective tissue and you get your swelling, which allows cell to enter damaged tissues. One other thing I did not mention, this right here, sensitive pain neurons. This is the signal to the brain to get out of harm's way. So if you put your hand on a hot stove, you take your hand off because of your prostaglandins. Treatment for inflammatory diseases involve inhibiting reactions early in this cascade. So lipooxygenase inhibitors reduce production of leukotrienes, and something here called NSAIDs. This stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. These are inhibitors and prevent the formation of prostaglandin H2, the starting material for prostaglandins and thromboxanes. So notice with this steroid talk, we did not mention the steroids you may have been thinking of, such as the ones that bodybuilders use. Those steroids are anabolic steroids, and they are prepared in the laboratory. They're not found in nature. So they do contain the 4-fused ring system still, and they mimic androgens like testosterone. They were designed to be better than testosterone because how they built muscle while having fewer effects. But again, they are made in the laboratory. They are not found in nature.